Have you ever noticed how the voices of the Simpsons characters have shifted over the years? You might think you know every detail of the show, but there's a surprising story behind how those voices evolved. From the very first episode to the polished sound we hear today, the changes are fascinating. Let's break down how the Simpsons voice acting has transformed through the years. Let's begin with a kind of destruction that doesn't start with fire or fists, but with a movie. In A Star Is Burns, the town holds a film festival to lift its reputation. Sounds wholesome, but instead of boosting morale, it starts a cultural meltdown. Everyone submits their own bizarre films. Barney makes a heartbreaking black and white piece. Hans Moleman gets hit by a football for laughs, and Mr. Burns bribes the judges with luxury gifts. Eventually, arguments erupt, egos explode, and Springfield becomes more divided than ever. Marge just wanted to encourage creativity. Instead, she sparked a full-blown art war that nearly tore the town apart. Even Jay Sherman couldn't save it. Then there is Homer versus the 18th Amendment, where prohibition is brought back thanks to a centuries-old law no one remembered. Springfield bans alcohol, and that is when real destruction starts. Moe turns his bar into a pet shop front, Homer becomes a bootlegger using bowling balls, and the police launch raids across town. Beer barrels are blown up in broad daylight, cellars are flooded, drunken mobs scream for justice, and somehow Rex Banner, brought in to restore order, gets launched out of town by a catapult. By the end, the law is quietly erased, and Springfield acts like it never happened. In Homer Badman, a single misunderstanding leads to a public outrage campaign. Homer is accused of sexual harassment after picking a gummy Venus off a babysitter's pants. What follows is total destruction. Not of buildings, but of reputation. Protesters camp outside the house, TV crews dig through trash, tabloids news turn Homer into a monster. His face is everywhere, edited into monster photos, shouted at on the street, hunted like a criminal. The real damage here is emotional. Homer's life, job, and peace vanish in a matter of days, all because of a snack. Springfield doesn't wait for proof. It picks a side and destroys everything else. Physical destruction returns in Homer the Great, when Homer joins the mysterious stonecutters and actually becomes their leader. As the chosen one, he changes their ancient ways overnight. Sacred items are misused, ceremonies get dumped down, the entire society collapses from within. Eventually, they build a new clubhouse just to kick Homer out. Secret walls crumble, ritual rooms are abandoned, thousands of years of order ruined in 1 week. Springfield doesn't just break buildings, it breaks tradition. And then there's Bart Gets an Elephant, where Bart wins against an actual elephant named Stampy. What starts as a silly radio prize ends with the animals stomping through backyards, crushing fences, knocking over mailboxes, and almost destroying the Simpson home. Marge tries to treat it like a giant puppy, but Stampy's wild nature wins out. He crashes into the museum, causes a panic downtown, and escapes into the woods. Even when they try to donate him to a wildlife reserve, it turns into a shouting match over ivory and morals. The elephant survives, most of Springfield's lawns do not. In Homer's Phobia, destruction comes with a message. The family befriends John, a gay man with a love for kitsch. Homer, trying to toughen up Bart, takes him to a steel mill, only to discover it turns out to be a dance club after hours. The irony hits like a wrecking ball. Homer panics and takes Bart on a hunting trip. But instead of bonding, they get attacked by reindeer and almost freeze to death in a cabin. Furniture is smashed, windows broken, reindeer horns stuck in walls. Eventually, John saves them with a giant robot Santa. Somehow it works, but the path there is littered with destruction and deeply bent furniture. In 22 short films about Springfield, chaos comes in bite-sized form. Apu throws a wild 5-minute party inside the Quickie Mart. Skinner burns dinner, trapping Superintendent Commerce in a smoke-filled kitchen. Bumblebee Man wrecks his entire house in a slapstick sequence involving mustard and falling cabinets. Even Lisa gets stuck in gum in her hair, which ends in a beauty salon meltdown. Each story is small, but together it shows a town where everything is always slightly broken or about to be. Homer versus Dignity turns destruction into performance art. Homer, broke as always, lets Mr. Burns pay him to do humiliating stunts, like throwing pudding at Lenny or dressing as a panda. Things escalate when Homer ruins a fancy dinner by releasing live animals in tuxedos. People scream, tables flip, chairs break, the entire restaurant is left in ruins. And for what? A few $100 in a panda suit? Dignity. In Springfield, it's just another thing that can be destroyed. And sometimes Springfield does the damage to itself. In It's a Mad, 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 Mad Marge, Otto's girlfriend moves in with the Simpsons and slowly takes over Marge's life. Marge gets pushed out of her own kitchen, her own routines, and eventually her own sanity. The house is filled with music equipment, loud parties, and biker boots. Marge's breakdown becomes the emotional destruction, watching her lose grip on her home, her family, and her sense of self. She nearly gets locked up. The walls stay standing. Marge does not. In The City of New York versus Homer Simpson, the family travels to NYC to retrieve Homer's car, which is illegally parked at the World Trade Center Plaza. Homer ends up stuck between buildings, battling traffic cops, street vendors, and his own bladder. In an attempt to escape, he smashes his way through the city, hitting fire hydrants, scraping walls, and leaving a trail of dents and fury from downtown to the bridge. By the time the family gets home, the car is wrecked, and so is Homer's patience. Manhattan will never be the same. Right after the Quickie Mart blows up again, Springfield doesn't calm down. Instead, it jumps straight into more trouble in the Springfield Connection. Marge becomes a cop, hoping to clean up the town, but instead of peace, we get car chases through people's yards and fights over poker games. Homer ends up in a bootlegging gang, and Marge, in full police mode, chases him through fences and mailboxes like a one-woman wrecking crew. She tries to bring justice, but Springfield fights back. Graffiti spreads, windows get smashed, and Marge finds out the hard way that being the law in this town just means breaking things in uniform. Things only get stranger in Homer the Great, where Homer joins a secret group called the Stonecutters. These guys control the town's plumbing, roads, and maybe even the weather. At first, it feels like a fun club with robes and secret songs, but then Homer becomes their leader and turns it into his personal playground. He demands statues of himself, messes up traffic on purpose, and wastes all the group's money. Soon the town system breaks down. Toilets overflow. Roads become rivers. What started as a secret society ends as a disaster with too much power in one very clumsy man's hands. But sometimes the biggest damage comes from feelings. In Homer's Enemy, Frank Grimes can't handle how Homer gets through life without effort or consequences. Grimes follows the rules, works hard, and still gets nothing. Watching Homer stumble through safety violations and still be loved drives Grimes mad. He starts yelling, throwing tools, and finally grabs a live wire in frustration. He dies instantly. No buildings fall, but something worse happens. The one person trying to stay sane in Springfield dies because the town rewards nonsense. And the worst part? Everyone laughs. Later, even his son tries to blow up the plant in revenge. Springfield just keeps turning pain into punchlines. Then there's Homer the Vigilante, where the town decides it doesn't need police. A cat burglar steals from half the town, so Homer makes a neighborhood watch. But instead of stopping crime, they act like a rowdy gang. They stomp on flower beds, break fences, and tackle people for no reason. One man gets attacked for holding a flashlight, and the burglar, he tricks them and escapes with all the town's treasures, hidden under a simple sheet. In the end, the town is poorer, angrier, and covered in damage. But they still feel proud because in Springfield, effort matters more than results. In Radioactive Man, Hollywood comes to town to make a superhero movie. Everyone is excited, but as soon as the filming starts, Springfield becomes a mess. Big movie sets block roads and knock down buildings. Power lines get messed up. Milhouse is cast as a sidekick, but quits halfway, slowing everything down. The movie falls apart, and the crew leaves town. What's left? Burnt trailers, broken equipment, and disappointed extras. Even fake explosions caused real fires. The dream of fame ends with Rubble and Moe's bar stolen by a stuntman. The same messy ambition shows up in Lard of the Dance. Homer gets the idea to steal grease and sell it. He and Bart go around sucking grease from kitchens, school vents, even dumpsters. But grease isn't just garbage, it keeps places running. Once it's gone, restaurants close, school heaters stop working, and janitors declare war. Willie the groundskeeper turns into a grease soldier, defending his oil stash with rage. Soon, everyone's slipping on floors covered in flying grease. By the end, the town is slick, broken, and smells like a burnt breakfast. Lisa's no stranger to making a mess either. In The Old Man and the Sea Student, she wants to help the elderly at the nursing home. She brings in a dolphin show. Sounds sweet until it floods the building. Water destroys furniture, floors rot, and dentures float by like lost boats. Even though she meant well, the result is soaked socks and angry seniors. Still, the staff barely react. This is Springfield. Even dolphins in a retirement home aren't that strange. In Mountain of Madness, a company retreat sends Homer and Mr. Burns into the mountains during a blizzard. They get lost, trapped in a cabin, and find dynamite. nothing good follows. They accidentally blow up part of the mountain, start an avalanche, and nearly kill each other. At one point, Burns tries to cut Homer in half with a saw. Meanwhile, the rescue team smashes through snow only to find chaos. The cabin is gone. The team is exhausted. And the only lesson learned is that explosives and team building don't mix. Riots are also a normal part of life here. In Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, Marge tries to make the violent cartoon safer. She wants to protect kids. But when the cartoon becomes boring, the kids lose their minds. They riot, they loot stores, smash TVs, and fill the streets with demands for more violence. Trying to help backfires in the loudest way possible. Eventually, Marge gives up. The cartoon goes back to the usual bloody mess, and the children calm down. In Springfield, peace causes more damage than chaos. Even kids with curfews fight back. In Wild Bart's Can't Be Broken, the adults punish the kids with early bedtime, so the kids rebel. They paint graffiti everywhere, signs, schools, even cars get tagged. But they don't stop there. They steal recordings of the adults' secrets and play them for the whole town. Parents are embarrassed. Then both sides start fighting, and the town is torn up again by people of all ages. For once, destruction becomes a family activity. And then there's Homer versus Dignity. Mr. Burns pays Homer to do silly and cruel pranks. At first, it's just pudding jokes and weird costumes, but things get worse. Homer ruins a fancy dinner, throws food around a museum, and sings a depressing song to a group of orphans. Nothing is spared, artwork is ruined, feelings are crushed, and even children are left confused. The damage isn't always on walls. It's in the shame, the silence, and the awkward stares that follow every stunt. Across all these episodes, the same pattern repeats. Springfield doesn't just fall apart for big disasters, it breaks down from silly plans, selfish ideas, and people who mean well but don't think things through. What other destructive moments have you noticed in Springfield? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and supporting our channel. Click the next video on your screen to dive into another exciting Simpsons story.